Well, I'm a little late to the party. The whole One Marvelous Scene series started a week ago, and within seconds the best scenes were already claimed. So I had to dig a little deeper. And then some more scenes got claimed, so I had to dig a little deeper. And while maybe the scene I picked out isn't the best in the MCU, this scene, when taken on its own, is truly one marvelous scene. Before we get started, if you're new, please subscribe. The scene in question is the first Jailbreak from Guardians of the Galaxy. It flows so effortlessly and seems to take less than a few minutes when it actually takes 9 minutes. It's paced incredibly well. Guardians of the Galaxy had 0 fans before James Gunn got to play in the toy box. So few people knew about them that when James Gunn threw the originals in the background of a scene, no one even noticed. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 surprised everyone going in, and I think the moment audiences realized they were watching something other than a typical Marvel race for the MacGuffin set to classic tunes was when the Guardians were forced to band together for the first time. They clearly aren't friends in this scene, and when they head off on the mission at the end, the audience is genuinely uneasy about how this whole thing will work out with all these enemies working together. Some scenes aren't fully realized until the final cut, but I have a feeling James Gunn knew this worked at a pure script level. This scene may seem pretty standard, and in the context of the movie it was, but taken by itself, it really is a marvelous scene. The writing is top notch, the direction is on point, and the effects are great. But what makes this stand out above others? What makes this a truly great scene? At this point in the script, it's about a 1/3 of the way point, is about the end of Act 1, or you could say the start of Act 2. It's actually a very memorable scene by Marvel standards. Other scenes that take place at the same point in the script, like in Captain Marvel, would be the Skrull fight on the train, and Spider-Man would be when he leaves the party and goes to chase down the arms dealer, and Iron Man 2 would be when Vanko first attacked, and Thor doesn't really have one. Thor 2 is when the portals were all opening and Jane got stabbed with the ether. Compared to those, this scene does really stand out. It's probably the one you remember. You remember that Jailbreak, all the characters getting together for the first time, the first team shot, first introduction to some of these characters, and it really fleshed them out. It perfectly balances character and conflict. We're going to go through 2 similar scenes and show you how this one draws the best from both worlds. This Jailbreak scene is built on enormous conflict, very similar to Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, the water vault scene. This may seem a little bit different, but if you think about it, it's a group of characters facing a ton of obstacles. The Mission Impossible scene and the Guardians of the Galaxy Jailbreak scene both use very similar techniques in the creation of a great scene. The number one thing is conflict. Both of these scenes are filled to the brim with impossible obstacles, from killer droids to bad guys being stuck in the deep dead of space, to a water vault you can only access without an air tank, and to losing one of the cards and not knowing which one is which. These scenes are filled to the brim with conflict. Every bit of conflict works together. Even conflict at the beginning, like in Guardians of the Galaxy, the setup with the droids fighting, and then at the end the droids moving the little thing, and then the anti-gravity twist. You don't think about it being anti-gravity in space until they do it at the end. And then the glass being shot at 3 times is ready to break when they're ready to get out. In Mission Impossible, you have 3 people that are separated who are trying to break into a vault to switch out a drive so that someone else can steal a hard drive while someone else just watches in panic and then saves the day at the end. Right off the bat, Guardians of the Galaxy is better than this scene in the way it handles the exposition. In Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, everyone is given a job, they lay out the plan through some diagrams and projections, and we see a couple cutaways to what would happen if they do it wrong. In Guardians of the Galaxy, James Gunn takes it a different direction. He shows us all the necessary exposition of how they have to break out of this jail. He also does it in a funny and entertaining manner. Besides it being funny, it's also visual. You understand what they have to get, each item coming together. At the end, when Rocket disables the gravity and the audience wonders what's going on, Gamora neatly says the exposition without anyone thinking it's too heavy-handed. These scenes both have plenty of conflict. In Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, they're avoiding the bad guys, whereas in Guardians of the Galaxy, they've already been spotted, and they're fighting the bad guys. In Mission Impossible, each character has a different job, a different goal. Same with Guardians of the Galaxy. Each character is given a different job. Even though they all start out together, each character is given a goal that is dependent on the other characters achieving theirs. Each scene can be its own mini-movie, but what sets Guardians of the Galaxy apart is that the characters grow and are fleshed out throughout the action. In Mission Impossible, you have 3 spies that are very similar to each other without a hint of personality. In Guardians of the Galaxy, give them one minor quirk and bam, you have character development. You have characters arguing, bickering, conflicting. You have character-based conflict, and a lot of it is comedy. Every quip is different, and throughout here the characters grow. Rocket proves he really has broken out of a ton of prisons. Drax shows how he's ready to actually join this mission. It also shows how each character doesn't trust each other, but it makes them work together, and then it shows Quill's total distrust of everyone else by taking the orb at the end. Each character is still separate at the end. They haven't joined into one big team yet. Character banter throughout this shows each person's little quirk, and one little quirk can make a difference. Every scene in here is laugh out loud funny, but it's not a joke set up, it's just the characters being themselves. They react to each other, they react to the events that are happening. Each character gets its moment in the spotlight, they all fight slightly differently, Overall, Guardians of the Galaxy does better than Mission Impossible. Its characters are each different, they're individuals, and they shine and react and bounce off each other in ways that Mission Impossible just doesn't. While Mission Impossible may be the straight up better action scene, Guardians of the Galaxy goes a step farther and delves deep in with characters. The other scene we're going to compare it to is the Guardians of the Galaxy Jailbreak from Volume 2. They both seem very similar. They're both jailbreak, they both have a variety of characters, and they both have some interesting obstacles to get around. Though they may seem similar on the surface, when you get down to it, they're both very different. Even though each one is the third act of a sequence, the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 conflict is key. Everything is hard to get to. There's all sorts of obstacles, things go wrong, whereas in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the preparation's already. They just walk out in style and do it. There's no conflict. The bad guys in the first Jailbreak are much badder. They may not do anything of effect, but they actually look like a serious problem. Whereas in Volume 2, they're stupid, they're played for jokes. Both scenes have a lot of comedy. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 bases the comedy on the characters, whereas in 2, it's more on visual comedy, Groot just being a hilarious thing. It is funny, but it's not very intense at all. You know the little guy's gonna win. And in Volume 2, the guys are invincible. No one poses a single threat to them, whereas in the first Jailbreak scene, they actually have some weaknesses, they actually have some problems, and they could get beat. They are taken to the very brink of defeat before they come out in victory, whereas in Volume 2, it's victory the whole time. While Volume 2 had to take things in a different direction, it's still that first Guardians Jailbreak that is very memorable. James Gunn direction in this scene is flawless. It's probably because he wrote the thing and he understood how he wanted it to be, but the wide shots, the beautiful movement, there's no shaky cam. There's brilliant character moments, and each character is given a different color that stands out from the drab background. And when was the last scene you remember a talking raccoon, a giant tree, interacting in a space prison? They pulled this thing off flawlessly, and they sure weren't supposed to. All this, the action, the character, the comedy, it all comes together to make one wild, marvelous scene.